So here we are in the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast studio. I am joined right now by two guests, Ben Davies from Wild Fox Farms and Wild Fox Provisions in Berks County, Pennsylvania. Ben has been a leader in the hemp space here in Pennsylvania for years and years now. And then Cameron McIntosh from Americhanvre Cast Hemp, Pennsylvania's premier hempcrete builder, hemp lime insulation,
right?
All of that stuff. All right, so this is an experiment today because there's like some breaking hemp news, right? And the hemp space for me has moved so slowly over the past few years that I'm not used to breaking news, right?
This is a big deal, Eric.
This is a big deal, right? I've gotten lots of calls and texts from people all over the place, like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, you know, what are you doing? When are you going to publish something? So the issue here is, I guess they've redefined industrial hemp, right? Mitch McConnell sent us a press release.
Industrial hemp.
Now, because this is happening so fast and we're living in the 21st century, I'm going to use ChatGPT right here in real time, okay? So I'm gonna quickly do some ChatGPT stuff like they do in the movies, doing all that. And then I've just uploaded the press release from Mitch McConnell's office. And then I told ChatGPT, is that a French word? Who's in the studio with me today. And then now we have this. So here we go. Over the past 6 years, a loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill has allowed a completely unregulated market of intoxicating hemp-derived THC products to explode across the country. Products that were never intended to be part of the hemp industry, these semi-synthetic and synthetic cannabinoids, often stronger than state-regulated marijuana, have been sold openly in convenience stores, gas stations, vape shops, frequently packaged as gummies, candies, and snacks. And according to health and safety groups, they've become easily accessible to kids. Now, Senator Mitch McConnell
Industrial hemp.
from Kentucky, he's moving to close that loophole. Language he secured in, what does this say? FY 2026 Senate Agricultural Appropriations Bill. It would ban synthetic cannabinoids, cap THC levels in final hemp products at 0.4 milligrams per package, and clarify that industrial hemp means what Congress originally intended: seed, stock, fiber, grain, and non-intoxicating CBD, along with university and federally authorized research. The bill keeps the 0.3% field limit for hemp plants, protects legal CBD, and gives farmers a 1-year implementation window while the FDA issues guidance. Support for these changes is coming not just from law enforcement and public health groups, but from 39 state attorneys general and organizations who say that without congressional action, intoxicating hemp products will continue to endanger children and distort the agricultural hemp industry. So today we're joined by two people who lived through the fallout of that loophole. That's so dramatic, ChatGPT. From opposite sides of the plant, Cameron McIntosh, a hemp lime builder working to scale industrial fiber in the U.S., and Ben Davies, a CBD farmer who's watched the cannabinoid market shift dramatically since 2018. Well, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks.
We did an intro already.
Yeah.
It's weird. We're caught in a ChatGPT loop.
It's killer.
It's an hallucination. All right, so we've got these questions, right? So this is under the category of general host questions. That's me. I'm the general host. Number one, this press release from McConnell's office makes it clear Congress never intended the 2018 Farm Bill to open the door to unregulated intoxicating THC. When you hear that the new language would lock in the original intent, what does that mean to you guys?
I think that that's accurate. I do believe that that's accurate. That I don't think that the legislators fully understood the cannabis plant originally, and they didn't realize that there were such a wide variety of cannabinoids and ways to grow the plant and genetics. And so I think that probably is accurate, that this is a closer definition to what they originally intended.
Okay.
But interestingly, the demand, I guess, or the finite request finally to FDA to regulate the plant, that's something I think that had a big effect on your business, Ben, not mine, but at least at the beginning, 2018-19. I think you were 2017? I think you were one of the first to actually grow CBD in the state.
We started in 2018 when Pennsylvania allowed for CBD cultivation for the first time. And I believe we're probably the longest running CBD producer in the state. We're the first farm to produce a Pennsylvania-grown CBD product.
And in all of that time, the FDA has not done a single thing to regulate or to speak.
Yeah,
They've actually sat in front of
done
us.
some.
They've sat in front of us and joyfully explained that, spoke for an hour and said nothing.
All right. So number 2, McConnell says that this will secure the future of regulated hemp businesses. In your view, who exactly needs the protection right now?
Consumers, for sure.
Yeah.
They've always needed the protection. There's no concern about hemp fiber or hemp seed production so much. It's really the widespread use of cannabinoids there is some scientific research on the safety and efficacy of them, but there's plenty of them that there is no research done. And so, yeah, we do need consumer protection, and that goes back to what Cameron was saying about the FDA. I like how this new wording in this legislation is forcing the FDA's hand. It's forcing the FDA to speak about it because they have been dangerously silent for 10 years about it. And so in the absence of any kind of clear guidance, people are going to try and make money and build businesses and do what they can. So I like that. And I like that there is a focus on protecting consumers.
Yeah. And on the other side of that, you've always had this strange conundrum within the fiber industrial hemp space where, you know, your listeners have probably heard me say this before. It's comparing horticulture to agriculture, right? In the case of a cannabinoid product, you're growing a plant to extract the oil, you know, and it's done at a smaller scale. I mean, a big planting, even in 2018 or 19, a big planting of CBD hemp was, 300-400 acres. I mean, that was crazy, right? But that is almost nothing when you look at the fiber industrial side, right? Like that's a small planting for fiber industrial. And so you had this situation where, again, that's, horticulture, right? Growing a plant for its oil, basically growing a flower, extracting the oil, that's horticulture. Whereas, fiber industrial is large scale agriculture. It requires big pieces of land,
right. It's
big
farming,
pieces of equipment.
Big farming. It's big ag.
Big agricultural farming. Yep. And so you had farmers like that who are having to do things the same way as a farmer like Ben, who had maybe 5-10 acres at the peak, where each of those acres had to be tested, right? Ben had to go out into his field, take a sample from every one of those acres at the right time, submit it, get it tested, had to go to the DEA to begin with, get fingerprinted, get a background check. Now, imagine telling a large agricultural producer in the Plain States that they have to talk to the DEA. That alone is a non-starter for many of them.
Yeah.
Not because they have criminal records.
Right.
Just because.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why the hell should they have to talk to the DEA?
Yeah. It's so dumb.
Right. And then on top of that, they would have to test each individual acre on what could be a 1,000+ acre planting. And now, interestingly too, the raw numbers, the data on the acreage that was planted back in 2018, almost 100% CBD planting. And there were half a million acres or something like that planted in the United States, versus now we're down to, 14,000 acres this past year. But the majority of that was fiber industrial.
It's starting to do what we wanted to do.
Completely flipped. Yeah.
And this legislation hopefully is going to do away with all of that nonsense.
Well, it should make it easier for a fiber industrial or grain farmer to get the same insurance, the same loans, the same access to all of those things.
This is what we've needed
because there is no
years.
Confusion anymore as per this language. And this is where businesses like mine are excited that, they are very clearly now defining industrial hemp as what it should have always been called.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and this is why Ben is here today, you have a business, Wild Fox Provisions, that literally just got gutted. And Ben is not producing Delta 8 or THCO or any of the cannabinoids. He's not playing the games that the bad actors in the space were playing.
But he's still affected by it.
But basically,
we think he's going to be affected.
Every product they make falls outside of this definition.
We have one product left.
Well, all right. Next question here is the provision sets a 0.4 milligram THC limit per package for finished products. How big of a change is that from what you've been able to do retail-wise now?
Yeah. My wife, Kara, and I are not cannabis users in general. We obviously use our CBD products daily, but we've never been, cannabis users in general. And so we always wanted to make products that genuinely helped people and that were genuinely meeting the needs of people who were struggling with, sleep or anxiety or stress or aches and pains and, all kinds of neuropathy, all kinds of different ailments. And right now, our products have THC in them, but only one of them will remain at this point that does not have THC in it. I think that we can still revise some of our products to create more products that are going to be able to be legal under these new parameters, but it does gut our product catalog pretty much.
Back up a little bit and talk about how that desire to, grow medicine for people kind of sort of like harmonizes with, the rest of your farm, right? Because I feel like you guys have a certain approach to agriculture and,
Yeah, we've been organic farmers for 15 years, and we started growing organic produce and pasture-raised meats, selling at local farmers markets. So, and we care a lot about the land and about restoring the land, taking care of the local ecosystem, feeding people locally. So that's what our agricultural career is rooted in. It's really hard to make money doing that. And so when the hemp industry and specifically the CBD opportunity arose, we saw that as a unique way for us to make a higher profit as a small business. Yeah. And it has really benefited our farm and our family over the years, and it's helped prop up our more conventional, organic produce business. So it has been a very valuable cash cow for our business.
So the press release talks about, kids buying THC products labeled as hemp. Do you feel like policymakers finally understand the scale of the problem?
I think that, yes. I think it's starting to finally sink in that this plant is more complicated than they thought. And they took that for granted with the original legislation in 2014. And then again, in 2018 Farm Bill, they still took it for granted. And so now but unfortunately, I think there's been a lot of casualties along the way, so to speak, of people consuming things that they thought were CBD or that they thought were safe. And we don't even know who is producing or how they're producing some of these chemicals that are in some of these Delta 8, HHO, Delta 10, all these products that are intoxicating cannabinoids. And that's why we as a business have stayed away from all of those things, because it's not dangerous.
Hemp. It's never been hemp. And it's so disingenuous for those people to be like, this is hemp. And sure, it met the letter of the law, but no way did it meet the spirit of the law. And that's been my issue here this whole time. When hemp was first, I thought we were going to make stuff. I had no idea about CBD.
It reminds me of the first hemp show that I ever participated in was with Drew, with National Hemp Association at the CWCB, Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo at the Javits Center in New York.
May 2019.
May 2019. So it was January of that year that I had decided to quit my job and go full time into this. Joined together with Drew and Anna, built the Hemp House on Wheels, basically a rolling model for what we wanted to do, and got this opportunity through Jeff, who at the time, Jeff Whaling, who at the time was working with Canopy Growth, and Canopy Growth had this arm, if you will, of their strategy for hemp in North America, which they were calling Hemp Industrial Park. Okay, and this was to be a facility in the southern tier of New York We actually had a ribbon cutting about a month or two after that WCB show up in New York at this facility that they bought with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer showed up, right? He's a representative from the southern tier of New York. Chuck showed up to cut the ribbon. And at that point, all signs were sort of indicating that, that there was an interest in fiber industrial hemp. But the reality was, when you walked the floor at that CWCB show, everything was cannabinoid, CBD packaging, CBD marketing, all the stuff, extraction equipment.
That was my first, hemp cannabis show too. And I ate so many free samples of CBD that day that for the next few days, I was just floating.
Yeah.
And our band had a gig the next day, and it was literally the best gig ever. I'm not drawing the connection between but I think cannabinoids, there is a little bit of magic.
Well, and so I remember at that show being shocked by that. We were in a booth with, Canopy Growth and a whole bunch of sexy young, Canopy Growth executives. And then in the middle, Hemp Industrial Park. And on the other side of that, National Hemp Association and their whole booth with Erica and Jeff and Les, right?
Yep.
We, between National Hemp Association's little booth and the Hemp House on Wheels and Jeff's BMW, smart car that has 17% hemp in it or whatever, that was the only thing on the floor of that show. 500, 600, 700 booths, literally the only thing that had something to do with true fiber industrial hemp.
Yep.
So at that point in time, we were very much this isn't the right way to say it, but the butt of the joke, if you will. We were the odd man out in the room at that point in time. I met everybody for the first time at that show. I turned around at one point and there was Morris Beagle standing there with Kate Curley, big smile on his face. The reason being was that he was excited to see some hempcrete and some hemp products other than, CBD at this show. So I met a lot of people at that show for the first time.
I didn't realize I could have met Morris Beagle and Kate at that show.
Years ago.
I did meet a lot of people.
Ben Droz, the hemp guy.
I met him there.
Yep. Yeah. There was, so these are all people again and Joy, remember Joy's,
I didn't know Joy was there.
Joy, I believe, was there. But what I was going to say was, if you remember Joy's comments earlier this year on the conversation that we all had at NOCO, when there were people there, I won't necessarily have to mention their names, people know who I'm talking about, who stood up to present this perverted vision of what CBD could be if they could just get Donald Trump to sign an executive order to grandfather in the language, appeal to his vanity and say, hey, you're so smart. You created this industry. Don't you want to take credit for it? One stroke of the pen, executive order. You've been doing it for everything else. You can do this. And they smugly presented this to a room full of people at NOCO last year.
Swore up and down it was going to happen any day now.
Largely not cannabinoid producers anymore. I mean, at that point in time, 18, 19, NOCO was 10,000 deep and it was all CBD folks. Fast forward to 2025, there were maybe 300 people there in that room. I don't know how many attended the show, but in that room, maybe 300 people, largely who were not there interested in CBD. And they went so far as to say that they believed that if they were successful, that they could circumvent rescheduling and that this could become the adult use market. This is what the people, the lobbyists, the confusion that has been created, that they wanted to perpetuate in DC, the things that have always bothered me about it and that make me personally, as a true fiber industrial hemp business, want to be very cold-hearted. There are many things that have happened that have made me want to be cold-hearted. The only exception is that my landlord and good friend Ben and Kara are a business that literally just got gutted by this. They are not the bad actors. They're not the ones selling Skittle packaging gummies that actually get you stoned that were made from hemp that they grew. That's not what they're doing. But they are in the crosshairs of this, and there's many other businesses like that. I am sympathetic towards that. Please understand that. I am sympathetic towards that. There are faces to the reality that, for me, that, hemp has changed and that businesses are going to suffer for it. But where I am not, and where I am very cold-hearted, is from the confusion and from that event at NOCO, hearing the presentation by those people who have been in this space for a long time. And Joy very, very summed it up very nicely on your podcast, where, and I agree with this, if you are a cannabis enthusiast or a cannabis user and you're living, I don't know, what is it, 19 different states now have either medical or recreational, is that right? It's somewhere around that. It could be even more than that. Yeah, it changes every election cycle.
39 states.
Right. So we are surrounded by it. If you're an adult, you can get access to state regulated and, controlled cannabis.
Except in the states that you can't, and that's
sure. But who is walking into there? You have one of these on the corner, Eric. I parked in front of it. You have a head shop
in Ephrata.
Yes, you have a smoke shop on the corner, 2 doors down from the front door of Lancaster Farming. Big bright sign in the window that says, "We have CBD."
Yeah.
If I walked in there right now,
I know what you're going to say.
I guarantee you, I could buy something that could get me stoned, and they wouldn't card me. Now,
there's probably not much CBD. Actually, in that store.
There's hardly any CBD.
I've been
actually
in there. I've actually taken pictures of what they have there, and it's like jars of the nastiest looking flower, cannabis flower in different jars, and it's like,
right. But who is, if you are a cannabis user,
right? Who would want that? The people who can't access it elsewhere. So that's kids, right?
Exactly.
But you have to be 21 to get into that store. So says the sign.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. But there's plenty of other stores like that where you don't. And if you remember the last time we had a PA Industrial Hemp Summit here, I don't even remember when that was, maybe 3 years ago.
22.
Ken Elliott was on stage with me and Erica, and we had a couple of state senators there, one of whom was Sharif Street. And there were 2 panels. There was one on fiber hemp, and then there was a second panel after that was on cannabinoid hemp. I think Representative Street was ready to leave and just wanted to ask the question that he wanted to ask, but he asked of the fiber panel, what do we do about all of these stores in my district, in my neighborhoods that I represent? What do we do about all these stores that are selling these products? And it pissed me off in the moment because it very clearly illustrated what I'm talking about, which is that there has been great confusion at the federal level, whether it's state or federal. There's been great confusion about what is hemp. And this is what they think about ever since the Miller Amendment, right? And even before that, I think Sharif Street's comments to us were before that Miller Amendment.
Yeah.
So to Ben's point, this has been on their radar. This does affect their constituents, right? There are people that are saying, hey, why is it that my high school aged, teenagers can walk in and
gas station
and buy this crap, and beyond that, even more injurious is the fact that it isn't regulated. It isn't tested. A lot of it comes from overseas. Much of it is Chinese. You have no idea what's in these products. We don't know the long-term effects of, vaporizing, acid washed all these crazy cannabinoids. Like, we don't have any idea. They don't even test it on animals.
Yeah.
It's just literally being packaged and sold due to, in my opinion, a poorly worded definition, which is being sorted out in this legislation. And on top of that, inaction and dysfunction at the federal level. Right. And so this is Congress finally cleaning up a mess that they feel like they made. And because of the bad actors, they made it very simple and have just eliminated anything that 0.4 milligrams of THC per package. Now, if you use Ben's Farmer's Batch as directed, you will not feel stoned. You will not be intoxicated. But there's 60 milligrams of THC in that bottle, right?
In one dose of that one drop or 1 milliliter is 100 times what the new legal limit is.
Which again, that's where I feel like
3 to 4 milligrams
I feel like that's
THC in that,
I feel like
which
that's
is
inappropriate.
below the current 0.3% legal limit. But now with this new legislation, it's
And as someone that's used that
I guess it's
product,
10 times higher.
my parents
yeah.
have used that product. They have, sleep
Yeah.
issues. They're older. They weren't using it to get stoned. People I know and love have used Ben's product, and they don't get stoned from it. I've used the Farmer's Batch. If you take one dropper of it, you're going to feel nice, but you're not stoned. You're not impaired.
It's not intoxicating.
It's not intoxicating. So I do feel like that definition goes too far and has negatively affected good actors in the space, good businesses, stand-up businesses. But the reason that happened is because of the proliferation and all of the people who took advantage of that loophole. I don't feel bad because you knew it was a loophole. You built a castle in the sand and it's sinking into the ocean, and it's your fault.
I think
It's your
everybody
fault.
knew
And
that
you,
it
and
might.
you took out multiple. Yeah, I'm getting there. You guys are getting you're getting me there.
Yeah.
You took out in your own greed. You took out multiple businesses like Ben.
Family farms.
We got blamed. Someone made a comment on a colleague of mine's post in the fiber industrial hemp space. This is a well-known person, made a post with, his version of it, where he lives in a state that is very, very strict, very illegal, everything. You can't sell any of these products in the state this guy lives in. He has to go get fingerprinted by the DEA to make a fiber industrial hemp product that has nothing to do with THC. Yeah. And he made a post saying, his interpretation of it, and it was pretty balanced. And some guy responds to him and says, the industrial side cut off its nose to spite its face.
So
we did nothing.
Yeah.
We did nothing. The industrial side is not to blame for this at all. All we ever wanted was a clear bifurcation to say fiber and grain, we should not have to go to the DEA. We shouldn't have to do testing. No large-scale agricultural farm is going to risk their entire business to grow pot in the middle of a fiber industrial hemp field. That is insane. That's all we ever wanted, you know?
Yeah, on the social media stuff, there's a lot of sky is falling, and it's been crazy. I've been kind of resisting getting even into it.
Me too.
But I've seen, the phrase prohibitionist thrown around now. So if you support this McConnell thing, you're a prohibitionist because you're going to outlaw these things. And I think it just it clears the definition for hemp, and then it creates an opportunity for enterprising Americans to now figure out how to do that thing that they want to do, because I don't think anyone's saying that. No, we are saying that those products are bad, but there's maybe a space for some kind of regulated version of that, just not in hemp, not calling it hemp, calling it whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ben, tell me.
It's complicated. I'm still processing. We have a lot of important business decisions to make in the coming months.
Does the 365 days, is that helpful, I guess?
Yeah, it's balls to the wall now.
Yeah.
We gotta sell whatever we can and basically build up our coffers as a business. So if we're able to, if we decide to even keep the business alive, we need to be able to propel it in a different way, a different direction. We feel like we've always played by the rules. We've tried to honor the intent and not bend the rules and take advantage of things. And so, we feel good about our products currently. We have a lot of customers it's going to be, the floodgates are going to open as far as the disappointment and of what our customer base is going to experience. People rely on these products for quality of life.
Can you talk about your customer base? We're talking about a fair amount of people, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We ship nationally. We do, curbside pickup. Our business isn't massive, but we've stayed afloat without. I don't know any businesses that have stayed afloat since past COVID timeframe, and the whole hemp industry becoming, on the CBD side, becoming super saturated, kind of 2020, 2021 timeframe. There's not many businesses that have stayed in business, hemp farms, CBD businesses. it was a fad to a certain degree, but it also got super saturated. And the only ones that have stuck around are ones that have been starting to do more of the Delta 8, Delta 9 THC, THCA flower, that kind of stuff.
There was a market there.
Because there is a market for it. There's always going to be a market for people who want to get high. And but that's not what we do, and that's not what we are. We understand that's not what the intention of the hemp program was. And our customer base is people of all different age ranges, anywhere from the 20-year-old age range in their 20s to, 70s, 80s, people who just need, there's, a growing obvious suspicion of the pharmaceutical industry. So we get a lot of people who are trying to find different options, more natural solutions, so they don't have to be taking, antidepressants or opiates or things like that. And this helps them a lot, helps your body, maintain balance. Obviously we have an endocannabinoid system that, that is a natural part of our body, and this just helps boost that. I don't think that we really have people using our products to get high, as far as I know. You would have to consume a lot of it to do that.
Yeah, there's just better ways to do that if that's your thing, right?
And, there's a lot of people that this has been very life-changing for them, helping them get off of opioids, things that are genuinely dangerous and detrimental to human health. And so the THC in the THC component does play a role, and there is a medicinal value to that. That's something that is undisputed scientifically. And now having to remove that THC component, the products will undoubtedly be less effective in helping people, even in this as small of an amount as is in there, which is far, far less than your typical marijuana cannabis product. Even that small amount is still therapeutically valuable to consumers. So our products will inherently be less effective.
Do you think this sort of sets up an opportunity for maybe like a third path? So we have hemp here, and then there's marijuana on the other side, but could they not sort of come up with some kind of space in between?
Well, you heard a lot of that in the last couple months. They've been screaming for, the groups that claim to represent hemp. I'm doing the air quotes here. It's been really difficult for me to not just jump into everybody's posts and say, hey, you spelled cannabis wrong, because that's the reality. I think a lot of these products are much more cannabis adjacent than they are hemp adjacent,
sure.
And they've, even again at that NOCO meeting, they were not shy at all about letting us all know that they are very literally using fiber industrial hemp. Jack Herrera's 50,000 uses very literally have been using that as a Trojan horse for all these products, but that was the request from these folks, was to say, hey, we just want to be regulated. Well, if you are considered what you actually are, which is a cannabis product with THC, then you would be regulated via state programs and all these, pathways that are in place for cannabis products.
For forever, when people talked about hemp, like the advocates, the people who were trying to get hemp legalized, that was like their opening thing, like hemp doesn't get you high. And that I'm very grateful that, McConnell has come around and like put the foot down and put that edge. And I hope this holds. And I am, I'm sorry that this is happening to your farm, but I feel like it's going to work out. Like there's going to be,
they're collateral damage. Yeah. But, Wild Fox Provisions is collateral damage. I'm not the one that called for the nuclear option. I could have really given a less that, that's the way that the industry was going. We were living with that. That's the cross or the burden that we bore, as a fiber industrial hemp company, to have to explain to people that, when the hempcrete light's on fire, it doesn't get you stoned. Like, I can't tell you how sick I am of all those jokes.
Really? People ask that?
Oh my God. Yes. Every time there's a weed joke, you know? Yeah. But that alone did not turn me like into some militant, prohibitionist. Like, you can't call me a prohibitionist. Anybody who knows me, I'm definitely not a prohibitionist. But at the same time, you had, again, I would in the past have said it was inaction by the FDA. Now that all of this stuff is sort of bubbling up to the surface, I'm more and more convinced that people knew from the beginning. I mean, I remember hearing about D8 right away. D8 was available. I even bought some because, of course, I wanted to see what it was about. You know, right away at the beginning when I started my business, D8 was available. So I am convinced that people knew about this all along, right, Ben? Wouldn't you say? Like, you were telling me stories about college, like people have known about the potential to bastardize the plant.
Think about Prohibition sends the cannabis plant underground, right? And a lot of money and focus over 80 years has been put into figuring that stuff out. So yeah, that side of the market was so well developed. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me to hear that that stuff was around. You know, I first heard about the THC-0 and 8 or whatever it was, and maybe from you in 2020. I think there's an episode where I was asking you some very vague questions, maybe. And then I had an interview with Caleb Kaufman, who got caught up in this because they were selling. They said they were selling hemp, but they were selling weed, right? So this whole thing.
Well, there's that too. Have you been to Tennessee recently? Has anybody been through Tennessee? The stores there, stuff. Yeah. It's literally, and you were talking about this the other day, it's literally cannabis seeds. They're growing the same plant. They're testing it at such a point in time, you know, as per the law, where they can get away with claiming that it's hemp. And then it's being sold under the guise that because it's THCA, until you light it on fire, it doesn't become Delta 9.
Decarboxylate it.
Yes.
Like,
so you only make it illegal once you decide to light it on fire and smoke it.
All right.
And that is insane because that is in the South.
Yeah.
That's Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's not Connecticut. That's not Vermont. That's Tennessee. You are going to piss off the prohibitionists. You are going to alert the prohibitionist type people when they realize that their kid just walked into a store. I don't care if they're 18, 19, 21. If they just walked into a store and bought weed in a state where it's not legal and it's the same damn thing, what did you expect would happen? What did you actually expect? And I'm convinced they all knew that this was going to happen at some point, and it was just a gold rush. You know, I'm sure plenty of people made lots of money doing this.
Yep.
Good for them. It's over now.
Well, that's the beautiful thing of America is that things like this happen, and you can do that. You know, like there's opportunity. It abounds here. But then when we as a society need to come together and be like, oh, we are actually a nation of laws, and let's tinker with these so we can get it right. That's what's happening.
Laws are living documents. Our law is a living thing. It's constantly being updated.
Yeah. And I think this is an opportunity for people on the other side of hemp to figure out how to get that thing done. And that thing is legalization, like just whatever. But as far as the hemp podcast goes, I feel like we're in a good spot.
And they didn't do anything to help their cause by masquerading as hemp.
Yeah.
That is another thing where if they would have, I think, just joined together and talked about it like adults and not been cute and try to hide behind it.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to destroy, agricultural farmer, blah, blah, blah. That was all thinly veiled, you know, and it's very obvious. And lawmakers aren't stupid. They're not stupid. They look like they're stupid quite often. We're all pretty convinced they are, but they're really not. They're human beings. They hear from their constituents.
Yeah. All right. So last question, and then let's go get tacos.
Okay.
All right. So McConnell says that this bill, and I'm using the air quotes, keeps our promise to American farmers. And that's quite a question after everything we just talked about there, because you are an American farmer. Do you think this gets us closer to a stable, real agricultural hemp economy?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay.
Well, you know, the thing that I think about it from a business perspective is that we do crave a certain level of structure and regulation as a self-respecting business. And there has been a significant lack of that for the last 10 years in the hemp space. There's still, even with this development, there are still unanswered questions, I would argue. as far as how we are to go about doing business as hemp farmers. But I feel like we're getting closer to a more well-defined landscape of how we are regulated as a hemp business. And there's a part of me that's like, you know, I've talked to other people who are all up in arms right now, and they're putting groups together to advocate to get this overturned, and they're trying to do all kinds of other things. We have 365 days. We can overturn this. You know, we can. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, there is more structure now. I don't like the fact that I have to discontinue 90% of my products, some of which are very delicious, normal products, like our teas. You know, they're not getting anybody high. They're just a delicious herbal tea. They're a delicious herbal tea that helps you sleep at night, you know. But that will never be legal anymore under these parameters because we actually use the whole plant. We don't even process it. It's the whole plant in hemp in the tea, you know, which is like how do you get it's certified organic? How do you get more of a pure product than that? But I do appreciate having more answers and more color to the canvas of hemp here, that we understand how to move forward and under what parameters, because I've always complained that it is hard to run a business when things keep changing every couple years, or there's different regulations or different things being proposed, and there's all these loopholes and there's all these things that are, you know, our state regulators don't really understand this or have answers for this. I don't know how to get in touch with anyone at the federal level, so we're just going to like move forward the best we can and just hope that this is the right path forward, you know? So the more color that we get to it, the better we can operate as a normal business, you know? And that's what I've always said. Like, we had attempted to start a growers cooperative to produce high cannabinoid, high CBD hemp originally. And because of the market saturation, that kind of fell apart. But I think that this gets us closer to maybe being on a path for creating opportunities for farmers like that, because we have structure, we have definition, and there's not these big ups and downs in the market. I hope that we can continue to produce high CBD hemp, and that can be a potential cash crop for farmers who don't have the opportunities or the intention that like we do, where we are actually developing products and packaging them and distributing them. Yeah. And that you can't ask that of every farmer. You have to be able to create pathways for an average farmer who wants to add some kind of value or some kind of cash crop to their farm. You have to create opportunities for them, but the only way to do that is to have better definition and better structure, and to weed out the bad actors, to be honest.
Yeah. So do you think your business could be, let's say, saved? That might be too dramatic, but through genetics, like if there were, you know, CBD varieties that just like kept the THC low, I know that's going to create a different product for you and will ultimately create different medicine for your consumers. Yeah. But I'm thinking about my friends up there in Geneva at Cornell Agritech, and I know they're breeding, you know, hemp lines with low or no THC for fiber and grain to sort of hit some of those benchmarks.
There's definitely, I 100% think that comes into focus now more than ever. Oregon CBD Seeds has always been at the leading edge of hemp genetics as far as the high cannabinoid hemp. And they have a white CBG strain that they have, you know, different varieties of, and that produces absolutely no THC. The problem with these new parameters is that we can grow hemp just like we always have, but we can't sell. As far as I know, we cannot sell. My understanding is the actual harvest. We have that harvest needs to go to an extraction lab and be processed to remove all the THC, because in what I'm reading is that they are regulating not only the finished packaged product, but intermediary products. So I still have yet to see an interpretation that clarifies that. I don't know that I can grow hemp flower and sell it to anyone. because it will then it naturally, most genetics will have, to your question, higher than
0.4 milligrams.
4 milligrams of THC in it.
Okay.
So every agricultural product will have to go to get all the THC removed, unless it naturally doesn't have THC. And there's the CBG genetics that have no THC. So that is something that can be grown and sold. And then I'm confident that they'll be able to breed other genetics that will have no THC as well at some point. But I haven't researched many genetics recently. We've just been growing the ones that we like to grow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Any final words, Cameron, Ben?
Just to say,
Good luck, everybody.
Just to say that with any law, I think there's a lot of questions still out there. I mean, I think even less productively, this puts a lot of the onus for regulation back on the states. So you could have states where all of a sudden people are getting, ticketed or pulled over for having these products, even if it is within this 1 year window. There's another potential that the legislators actually do get the farm bill done before that 365 days is up. And whatever's in that final version of the farm bill is going to supersede whatever has been said right now. So he might not have 365 days to do this. We don't know. But again, understand that I came to this industry much like Ben. Neither of us are career hemp activists or cannabis activists. I came to this industry from outside in 2018. I had nothing to do with getting us to the point where we were at in 2018. So I am grateful to all of the people and all of the businesses,
Yep.
Many of whom are going to suffer from this because they built businesses around, the work that they did. I am sensitive to that. But again, I cannot be upset about the fact that finally we have a clear definition for what true fiber industrial hemp is. After NOCO, I felt very strongly that we needed to take that word back. I do not agree or believe anyone who says things like, THC derived from hemp. Ben's going to laugh at me. THC derived from hemp is still hemp. I don't believe that. I don't think that makes any sense. I have also hesitated to put my opinion of this out publicly, other than my outburst at NOCO when I just couldn't sit there and listen to it anymore. I've been very careful of that because I don't want to sit here and sound, cold-hearted or that indifferent, that I don't care. But at the same time, when you looked at those numbers coming out about what the value, this is a $28 billion industry. Fiber and grain industrial hemp most certainly is not a $28 billion industry yet in this country, or whatever the number is. Those numbers reflect very much all of these products that are being sold that are, as I said earlier, cannabis adjacent. So, the focus is now being turned back, and the anger, I know this is happening, and I expect it to continue, especially in the next couple of weeks or months or whatever. That anger is going to get turned towards businesses like mine to say, literally, Morgan Elliott had a post on her LinkedIn of some guy sitting there saying, holding a little Mylar bag with whatever the hell was in it, a vape or a, flour or whatever, gummies, saying, oh, this is hemp to me. I don't know about anybody that's making money selling t-shirts or rope.
Right.
What a smug thing to say. I'm sorry, Eric, I'm taking liberties here, but what a terrible thing to say, because what people wanted out of CBD, and Ben is not one of these people. Ben and Kara are not, this kind of person. Many friends of mine who I know that did not come into this expecting it to be an overnight Silicon Valley success story. Everybody in the space back then at the Javits Center, right, in 2019, we were the butt of the joke because we weren't going to be millionaires next year. Everybody back then was going to be a millionaire next year selling kilograms of isolate or distillate for, $7,500 or whatever. The price tanked all the way down to $250 or whatever it is, right? All of that is not what building an industry looks like. Nobody here, not even me, I don't know what building an industry looks like past where we've gotten to with fiber industrial hemp. We've not reintroduced a new true agricultural commodity to the American farmer since soy in the 40s, 50s, something like that. And even then, it took until the 90s before it really became a big agricultural staple, right? It wasn't in every field like it is now. So we still have that trajectory with fiber industrial hemp. And that's what I would say to anybody finally who got to this point, failed doing CBD. I know more people like that than I do Ben and Kara's in this state, in this country. They are a rare example of a company that actually followed the rules and were successful growing, processing, marketing, and selling their own product. They didn't speculate. He didn't grow a bunch of hemp hoping to sell, kilograms of isolate all over the country. Yeah. They are one of the only companies that I know that did it that way. And I do feel bad for them. But at the same time, there is still generational opportunity on the fiber industrial side. The industry is not saturated because of the focus and the investment that was put into the cannabinoid side. And I said to somebody online the other day, if 5% of the money that was invested into CBD hemp in the state of Pennsylvania alone, if 5% of that over the last 6 years would have been put into fiber industrial, I would not still be buying my hemp from France. That's why I still have to buy my hemp from France, because there are very few and far between any producers that are even logically close enough to me to be able to, at the same price point, deliver the quality that I need for what I do. Last thought, I know you're bugging me here. Last thought, my machine, the Easy machine that I have worked so hard to build and to demonstrate the use of, that machine doesn't care at all that it's fiber hemp that I'm putting into it. There are a variety of other rapidly, annually, agriculturally renewable, bio-based feedstocks. Corncrete,
sugar
rice hulls, sugarcane bagasse. So, again, there is still a generational opportunity here. This bill absolutely improves the environment for true fiber and grain industrial hemp. Don't believe the fear mongering. There's a lot of that going on. And fiber and grain industrial hemp are not on the chopping block. What is on the chopping block is this proliferation of Frankenoid products. That is on the chopping block. Those people knew this was coming, and don't let them scare you.
Yeah. All right. So let me say this, and then we'll wind it down. I'm going to end with.
No, I'm wound up now.
Uh-oh.
You can't wind me down.
Oh no.
Cameron's on his soapbox.
So the 2018 Farm Bill with the definition of hemp obviously led to these unintended consequences, right? And so this new legislation will have that as well. Some of it we're seeing already, like, good farm family businesses being affected by this. But I'm curious what other unintended consequences we're going to see here. Thank you both for being here. Cameron McIntosh, Ben Davies, thank you for visiting us here in the hemp studio.
It's great to be here in person with you, Eric.
It's fun.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's go get some tacos.
Cool.
Cheers.
This episode is brought to you in part by I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company that's providing new opportunities for American farmers. Learn more at indhemp.com.
This episode of The Hemp Show was written, recorded, and produced by Eric Herlock. Mixing and mastering by Justin Berger. Music by Eric Herlock. The Hemp Show is copyright 2025 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family.
Industrial hemp.